I think signing these three players will radically change Manchester United's rest defence and allow us to stop counter-attacks before they even start, something which is a massive weakness currently. On the tactics board we can see the opposition have regained possession in their defensive third, and what you can see is that I've left one centre back deep on the halfway line, essentially playing as a kind of sweeper as Dalot alongside the ball winning midfielder and the left sided centre back hold higher positions. But I know what you're thinking, isn't this far too risky?
Still risky.
Surely it would be better to drop the left-sided centre-back and Dalot back alongside the sweeper, leaving the ball winner midfielder in front to create a 3-1 rest defence rather than a 1-3. Well, I'm going to explain why I actually think that only leaving one centre-back back on the halfway line can actually make United's rest defence a lot more secure. However, of course, to play this style, United will obviously need to add 3 players alongside Dalot who are fast, athletic and aggressive front foot defenders. Well, before I get into that, if you want to reminisce about some of the greatest centre forwards in football history, such as Ruud van Nistelrooy, Robin van Persie and Wayne Rooney at Manchester United, as well as the likes of Batistuta, the Brazilian Ronaldo and Andrei Shevchenko, then go over to Jersey FIFA, check out all their Manchester United retro jerseys through the 1990s and 2000s, as well as from other club and international sites as well. If you use code Atlantis, you'll get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. But before I break down my rest defence setup, who are these 3 signings? Well, they're Amadou Onana, Ousmane Diomande and Alessandro Bastoni. Now all 3 are going to be expensive, which is why in my Who Manchester United Should Sign video, I also said I'd bring in Benjamin Hendricks, who's a versatile fullback, for around 15 to 20 million, Ross Barkley on a free if his contract does indeed expire at the end of the season with Luton, and Cyril Guirassy for his release clause of 17.5 million. And this was mainly because all these options aren't starting signings, and so I wanted to focus the majority of the funds elsewhere, first improving the base of the team at centre back and central midfield, and then next summer we can assess the attacking options to take us to a title challenge. But why Onana, Diomande and Bastoni specifically, and what makes these 3 so good that I'm willing to spend around 180 to 200 million pounds on just 3 players? Well, if you look at where modern football is going, you can't ignore the importance of physicality and athleticism. Physicality, specifically from a defensive point of view, allows you to deal with certain situations that tactics cannot really solve, such as when your centre-back comes up against physical strikers like Haaland, Vlahovic or Tony, and has to compete with their physicality in the 1v1 duel. And you can see this when you look at Antonio Rudiger's performances against Haaland, Pep's use of centre-backs like Akanji, Guardiol and Ake at full-back, and how Saliba and Gabriel have formed the most formidable centre-back partnership in the Premier League, with the common denominator in all of these examples being physicality alongside athleticism, and that's what United need. Centre-backs who don't just have the pace and acceleration to play in an extremely high back line, but can also handle physical battles inside their own box and outside of it as well. But you could also look at the benefits of these 3 in terms of set pieces, both offensively and defensively. Putting Onana, Bastoni and Diomande in the side should instantly improve United in these areas, which over the course of a whole season can make a massive difference, as Arsenal have shown this season and how Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid showed in the 2013-2014 season when they won La Liga. But let's move on to the tactical explanation. So if you have Dalot and Bastoni retaining deeper positions alongside Diomande in this situation, whilst it seems like a good defensive move at first glance because you are protecting the space in behind, if you actually think about it, it just leaves you more vulnerable. And this is because most sides United come up against are going to drop their wingers and even their strikers into the defensive third when United have the ball. And so this means that when there is a turnover, Amadou Onana would become isolated and outnumbered in the middle of the opposition half, likely allowing the opposition to bypass him with a couple of passes. Having 3 players deep on the halfway line would give United a better chance of defending the defensive third, but it would make it easier for the opposition to actually progress the ball into United's defensive third in the first place, if that makes sense. And so a more proactive move would be to stop the attack in the opposition's half, and I think you can do this pretty effectively using that 1-3 rest defence shape which I suggested, giving you 2 players close to Onana to stop him being outnumbered, but also allowing you to use Dalot and Bastoni's front foot defending to instantly be able to pressurise the opposition's midfielders as soon as they receive the ball, and trying to stop them turning or preferably winning the ball back in the opposition's half, allowing United to regain possession and sustain the pressure. Now of course there is a high element of risk, but that is why having centre-backs like Diomande and Bastoni, both of whom could play as a sweeper because of their pace, alongside having the front foot defending and aggression to be able to push up alongside Onana as well, is so important. Even if the opposition are able to play a long pass into the channel, Diomande and Bastoni are the sort of centre-backs who you'd back in these 1v1 duels most of the time, and this is exactly what we've seen with both Gabriel and Saliba at Arsenal. Dalot or Bastoni, whoever's on the other side to where the ball is, can then drop inside narrower to cover the central position, with Diomande moving out wide, also being sure to keep an eye on players running up behind them on their outside, creating a kind of 2-2 rest defence shape at this point. Also, by having more players stationed higher up the pitch, this is going to make United's counter-press a lot more effective, as the pressing shape is a lot more vertically compact. And whilst you are leaving massive amounts of space in the middle third between Diomande and the 3 players ahead of him, with quick and athletic defenders like Bastoni, Dalot and Onana in that 3 in front of him, more often than not they're going to be able to keep pace with the attackers on the counter, and because it's about 2/3 of the pitch, even if the opposition do get in behind, it's such a long way from goal that it's still a massive task for them to even get into a shooting position. Also, with the use of Andre Onana as a sweeper keeper, something we saw in the game against Coventry, long passes from deep have to be weighted almost perfectly, firstly to get the ball in behind Diomande, but also so it isn't too heavy that it just runs into Onana's path, whose high position outside of the box should enable him to sweep up a lot of long balls. Now I am going to do another tactical video looking at more of the counter-pressing side of things, so if you do want to see that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also let me know your thoughts on the 3 players I've suggested in the comment section below.